I'm Patrick Towell. I'm co-founder and joint chief executive of a company called Gallant Media Ventures, and we're an innovation agency that work in the creative industries.
I'm Mandy Berry and I'm the other co-founder and joint chief executive of Gallant Media Ventures.
One of the areas that we at Gallant Media Ventures work on is data-driven innovation. We've always been interested in data and information and how they bring value. In the creative industries particularly, you've got content, which is a kind of information. You've also got metadata about that content. That's ways of describing creative content. And increasingly we're aware now of the amount of personal data that's held about us and about any consumer or user of creative services. So you've got lots of different kinds of data and information sloshing around in the market, and then in any one particular business you have lots of information.
When I first started working with Patrick, if he talked to me about metadata, I went, oh, not to do with me, I can't do that, far too techie. However, we won a Technology Strategy Board competition that was around the use of metadata, creating better, richer metadata for film, and how if you did that and then linked that with music metadata and editorial metadata, you could create very interesting user journeys. And that's where really I learnt to love data and metadata. So that project was about the use of metadata to enhance the existing content. And what we had to do was to look at existing metadata. So for film, we worked with the BFI and we looked at the kind of metadata that they had, which was very technical in a sense. So, you know, a lot of detail about different kinds of job roles, but hardly the kind of terminology or words or necessarily the information that a user or a customer on the street would want. And so we had to create new words and new ways of looking at that data. So what we were trying to create was a journey that went across film and music, using editorial as the sort of connective tissue between the two.
I'm Paul Davis, I'm Managing Director and a producer at Vica Limited. We produce television content and digital tools. One of the projects that we're involved with is to do with the creation of metadata, so data about data. Some people have said to me, it's the new chocolate, it's something that everybody is going to need and want to be able to exploit, commercialise, monetise online. So a specific problem that we were given was from the Library of Birmingham. They've got many tens of thousands of photographs that they want to commercialise, but to be able to do that and exploit them online, we've been tasked to create metadata so that those photographs can be found. We looked at a few ways of doing this. There's the expensive way of doing this, which would be to use a highly trained archivist who would look at the resource and make careful tags. But that's not a good way of creating a profitable resource on the web. So we're making an automated method. We're using optical character recognition as a starting point because a lot of the photographs have got things written on them which you can read. We're using image recognition, and we've got an image recognition tool. And then the third facet is a form of crowdsourcing, really, where we're using the crowd to be able to produce tags for our photographs. I think the biggest hurdle that we had to overcome was to do with understanding the market. I spent a lot of time going around some of the very big players in the area of stills photography, so National Archive, British Library, Digital Public Libraries of America, and worked out that they all had the same problem. Yes, they've got assets. In many cases, yes, they've started to digitise, but in all cases, yes, they found it really difficult to exploit and commercialise the results of those efforts. So I guess that's a difficult aspect, isn't it? You've got to work out what the problem is and what the method might be to overcome that problem in a commercial sense. Otherwise, frankly, as a digital business, you've not got something to sell at the end of the road.
Data and metadata sound technical things, but what they really are is conceptual and linguistic things, particularly in creative and cultural products and services. And so what we're trying to do here is connect to the way that a user or a customer, a visitor, an audience member thinks about things. And oftentimes they're not thinking about the star of a particular film, the director of a particular film, the production company that made it. What they're thinking about is, that was an interesting bit of that lyric, or I wonder where that was filmed, or that actor, they were in something else. And we are much more interconnected in the way that we think about content than typically industries in the creative industries think. Because what we tend to do in the publishing industry is think that people are readers. In the film industry, think that people are watchers. In the hospitality industry, think that people are eaters and drinkers. But when we look at ourselves and our friends and our family, we are all of those things. And so finding ever greater interconnections between, in a sense, these leisure, entertainment, cultural pursuits adds value for the consumer, the user, but also potentially adds value for various different rights holders and creative organisations.
Scalability with all digital projects has to be a watchword from day one. Investment is huge in this sort of project, and you've got to be convinced that you're not creating something that actually is small scale. So what we did first of all, before we started to produce the tool, was to look at the extent of the marketplace. Only then really can you decide what you can afford for the quality of the solution. We're convinced there's not just a market here in Birmingham. There are many libraries around the UK that have got exactly the same problem and are looking for the same solution. So there's the opportunity there for B2B sales to other libraries. We've looked around Europe, we've looked around the world, and yes, very, very similar problems. So we know that if we can get that right in the UK, we've got something which is ripe for export. So yeah, you have to be businesslike about the solution as well as creative.